recording up and running. And then we'll need the monitor here set to, yeah, just about. No rush. Right, we're ready to go.
Sita, would you like to ask your question again?
Yeah, I was referring to this discussion yesterday. So I'm not so very sure. Is Chanda also another word for anicca, impermanent?
Chanda is interest. So it's a mental factor, it's a cetasika, and it can be kusala or akusala. Like when there is interest in the food that we were eating, then it's chanda with lobha. When it's interest in understanding about the truth that we were talking about yesterday, then it's kusala chanda with understanding. And we were talking about how the wholesome chanda with understanding has to develop on and on and on to become a bodhipakya dhamma, an enlightenment factor. So is there chanda now? What kind of chanda is there now?
Understanding the discussion.
Interest to understand the discussion. And there must be some kusala interest to understand it. But of course, there are also moments of akusala interest when there's confusion or one's worried or there's clinging. So different moments of kusala and akusala chanda.
Okay. And another question was it's nimitta. Can we also classify it as sign? It was like yesterday, it was a shadow of realities. It can also mean the sign. Sign?
It's the same. Whatever it's real, because it arises and falls away so fast, it leaves a sign or a shadow. So what is thought about the idea, the sign, is the shadow of the reality, because without the reality, there wouldn't be that idea, that sign at all.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
And Ajahn clarified that every concept, every panyati is a shadow of reality.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
And I could just add that I think sign is one of the literal meanings of nimitta, whereas shadow is more a figurative meaning. So nimitta is usually translated, in fact, as sign.
Okay, thank you. Got that.
And on chanda, chanda means having an interest in what has been heard in the context of the study of the Dhamma. Some people could hear the Dhamma and they could have a comprehension of what is being said at some level, but no interest in hearing further or nothing to make them think about it afterwards. It is chanda that conditions the reflection in what has been heard. So a person who's developed understanding in the past and hearing the Dhamma in this lifetime will be more inclined to reflect on what's been heard as he or she goes about their daily life. and will be interested in hearing more. Whereas if there's not the accumulated interest in the Dhamma, then there's no particular reason to want to hear it again or to think about it afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think there's another app or application or context for chanda. People often ask, what is the condition for, in terms of samadhi, concentrating on the same object for an extended period of time? People ask, what is the condition for citta taking the same object for an extended period of time? And I think the answer to that is partly, at least, is chanda, interest in the object. So as we know, in the development of samatha, there is contemplation of the object. If the object is, for example, death, then there is contemplation on the significance of death to life, what it means, how life is so fragile and so forth. And it is chanda that partly the conditions that attention to that particular object. So we may read about in the text of, in the development of samatha, for example, of taking a suitable object, especially if the purpose is to develop it to higher levels of concentration. And the object that is appropriate will be one for which there is chanda, and for which also there is the understanding of the significance of that object in the development of kusala. So it's not just a case of focusing on an object, it's a case of contemplating the significance of that object as far as it conditioning kusala citta.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Does anyone have any question to bring up? Nina, anything to raise?
Yes, I was thinking of clinging for newcomers, because newcomers have no idea what clinging is. And when I first met Ajahn, she said always to me, don't cling to a person. But I had no idea yet, because I thought of a mother and a child, and that the child should cling to the mother, and that it is good for the child. And I had all sorts of ideas about that. And I was so sad because I could not have any children. And I told Ajahn, and Ajahn said to me, you can have all the children of the whole world. And at that moment, the sadness disappeared, and I started to understand. Because if you want a child, it can be an idea of my child, and that is also not helpful. It is just clinging to a person. So in this way, Ajahn really made it very clear what clinging is. But I think for newcomers, it's helpful if we explain more about it, what is clinging, and what is clinging to a person. Also, in the matter of loneliness, we feel lonely. People ask, what are you doing at Christmas? Well, I won't see anybody special, nothing special. And then Ajahn explained that Chitta is always alone. The Chitta arises and falls away. And that is alone in the absolute sense, because we confuse very much the conventional notion of loneliness and the absolute sense of loneliness, which is arising and falling away. So Ajahn explained very well many things about the difference between conventional sense and absolute sense.
So what's your idea about explaining clinging for newcomers, Nina?
Well, that you like something, that you like the company. Well, when you lose a dear person through death, it is really clinging to oneself, because we dislike it, have no longer the company of the beloved person. So about these many examples from daily life, it is the way to explain what clinging is, that you like something, even very slightly, because now we think we like food, or more in a coarse way, but it can be so very subtle, hardly noticeable, and it is not easy to know all these different shades of clinging.
Are some kinds of clinging more difficult to know than others?
I think the very slight clinging, the more subtle clinging, which really arises each moment and it's not known. We talked about chanda, interest, and interest in hearing the Dhamma, but very often, even that, what seems very noble, is just clinging for, I want to know, I, to myself.
I'm thinking that the more understanding there is, the more understanding there will be of the subtlety of clinging. I think my sense that is, we really don't, we can't know yet this, all the subtlety of clinging, because there isn't enough understanding.
Yeah, very good, very well, yeah. It depends on panya, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the asava, the asava, the clinging to sense.
So subtle, the asavas, yeah.
Yes. And
also clinging to existence, to becoming life itself, which most people may not have thought about until it's pointed out. Clinging to sense objects, I think everyone can quite easily appreciate, but clinging to existence and becoming, not so readily.
Mm-hmm.
That you like to exist, bhava, you like to be, alive.
But I think, Anne, your point is that do we need to look for the subtle kinds of clinging, or should it just be a matter of developing understanding and they will become known at an appropriate time?
The latter, I think, Jonathan. If we start looking, that's a
Yeah.
different kind of clinging.
If you look for it, there is clinging already. So it's
Right.
no use. It's a matter of developing more understanding of this moment. Like seeing now, Ajahn always comes back to seeing now, that we cling to seeing and hearing, and develop more understanding of that. And then the understanding can become more subtle by itself, by conditions.
I'm just thinking of something Ajahn says quite frequently. It's already here. Like this is on the subject of the idea of being able to control something, which we can't do. But yeah, so I guess conditions is what we're talking about, I think. But it's already here. It's already there. Let me think if I try to think of an example.
Perhaps
Seeing it,
what she's referring to, what is a suitable object to be understood is
yes,
here rather than looking for some particular.
yes, okay. The suitable object is now. It's already here. You can't see it coming. You don't see it going, but it's here.
But it's difficult to understand that we cling to what's gone now, what is gone immediately, and what is no longer there. But we cling to that idea, I think, and that's difficult to understand.
Could you give an example, Nina, of what you mean by clinging to what has gone already?
Yes, like seeing. We like to see. So we cling to seeing now. But the seeing now is not there anymore. We learned that it is gone immediately. We learned this by theory, but not yet. No direct understanding yet of the arising and falling away. I know that, but we have to be patient to let understanding develop by its own conditions.
Nina, you say we like to see, we like seeing, and I'm just asking this, I guess, for some discussion on it. Is it we like seeing, or we like what we see?
Yes.
Well, there are different kinds of liking both in different times, and that distinction is not apparent to most people until they have heard the level of detail that we talk about. And
right.
So what is the reality now? Is it clinging to seeing, or is it clinging to what is seen?
I don't know.
Possible to know.
Mostly to what is seen.
That would be my guess. But clinging to seeing, we know there is seeing in order to. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say, clinging to experiencing what is seen again and again, clinging to experiencing the sounds, clinging to tasting the objects all day, clinging to the sense experiences as well as to the
Yes, putting it that way helps. Clinging to the experiencing.
I think this is one area where, and your comment earlier about Panya will know in due course, because it may vary from one individual to the other. And
Yes.
generalizing about it doesn't actually necessarily help, because it can be the other at any given instant also.
Yes. Yeah, it probably is. I mean, I don't have that kind of, it's only intellectual understanding that we can speak of, or at least I can speak of. But I would think there's good likelihood that it's clinging to the experiencing and the object, what is seen. I don't know. From time switching back and forth, I don't know. There will be clinging to both.
And when there's speculation at that moment, it's clinging.
For sure.
Yeah, and the hearing about the hearing about the reality, hearing that is not there. By the time we cling, it is not there. By hearing that, I think, is the thing that we make us think about it, and to have just a little less clinging, so as to understand, have more understanding about it as not something worth clinging. It's like sort of reversing the usual the usual way of thinking, and by hearing about the truth as the Buddha knew it, we can relate to that truth and see and find out the truth intellectually. I think this is pariyatti. That's as far as we can understand at the beginning. It's the words of the Buddha telling us about the truth, which is not the way we we think about it, because we think if there is clinging, there must be the idea that it's there. Otherwise, why clinging to something which we don't we know which is not there? And so we just hear about it, and that sort of triggers the process of a little by little, the process of saying, okay, it's not, I'm just clinging to nothing. I'm just clinging to something which is gone. So I think it makes us feel a little bit more wiser, in the sense of knowing the truth, that the foolishness of the whole situation we are living in, and it's now, and we listen for the clinging with to the truth, for the clinging to let go a little bit, because that's the only way to let go, to understand, to progress, I think, to have more understanding, more direct understanding, or more higher understanding, or the
I think you're suggesting that awareness of clinging in particular is very important in the development of understanding. Would that be right? Because you said we cling because we think it's there. I think the thinking it's there and the clinging can be different moments.
yeah, like now I'm clinging to the what I'm, to the sound, I'm your voice, and clinging to the words you're saying, but they're gone, they're not there. I still got the idea of you talking to me, saying what you just said, and I cling to it. So I can try to
On the other
work
hand,
it out. What
the Sotapanna eradicates all wrong view, but still has clinging as before. Two things, like the spoken and the seen.
As before, as me, as you. Sotapanna would be as much clinging as I have or as you have. You think so?
The habitual tendency to cling to, say, a particular color, or to like a particular kind of food, or that sort of thing. When the Sotapanna eradicates wrong view of self, I'm not sure that it changes those habitual tendencies, those accumulated tendencies in any way.
I'll make an example. You say something I disagree, I strongly disagree with. So I snap back at you with some harsh words. Or maybe say, just an idea. You think a Sotapanna would do that? Talk harsh words because he disagrees with what you say? Sotapanna wouldn't really be affected by your words if he or she doesn't agree with you. But on my
why do we react with dosa when we hear something we don't agree with?
By accumulations.
Which accumulation, which unwholesome tendency would condition dosa when we hear something we don't agree with?
Yeah, that would be accumulations of dosa.
Because the object could be pleasant. It could be a pleasantly spoken sentence, a nice voice, and a beautiful speaker, as it were. But just like when we see someone do something that we don't approve of, we can get anger. So if we see a person hitting another person, for example, what conditions the dosa in that situation?
Clinging to the words, I think.
So, and
so Alberto, the Sotapanna still has sensuous attachment. Sorry.
Yeah, but Sotapanna wouldn't use harsh words anymore. Because no more kusala kamapata. Ajahn,
Talking about Kusala Kamapata,
no, no, it's
if
just,
it's not now.
no.
See, that's to understand what is there now. Otherwise, it's just in the book and we try to think about it, find out whether it's Kamapata or not. But now, is it? The teach of the Buddha just condition the understanding of what is there, the truth of it. Otherwise, never find the truth at all because it's gone and we think about other things. Is it right? So it's now Kusala Kamapata? No? Oh, yes. Study the truth of reality right now. Otherwise, what we learn from the book, where are they? If it's not this moment. So no matter what would we talk now about, it's about to understand what is there. Each word, it's now and here.
The clinging is there is clinging about everything. There is clinging. Three moments after singing, clinging is there, and we hear about the Buddha saying that we are clinging to something which is not there, and so when we hear the truth about the object of clinging, we begin to understand the foolishness of the way our life, our entire life, this life and previous life is being based on something which is untrue, which is just like dreaming, and we begin to appreciate the teachings and to we begin to see the way out from life, the way out from this way of thinking which we are born with, until we listen to the truth, and so clinging is there, is still there, but we intellectually we know that it is not right to live like that, even if we continue to live exactly like before, but with more with an understanding of the truth, more understanding of the truth, that we have the chance to
be out of samsara.
we have the chance to progress, to progress with the understanding of the truth.
Yes, but I think that if we do not really understand what life is, how can we
How can there be the moment of understanding the danger of life, just not to have life anymore?
That's why we hear about the teachings. That's why we listen. That's why we
no matter what we heard about, we think about other things. For example, did Buddha say anything about seeing and hearing? And there's now seeing and hearing, and we think about other things. What about chanda, itipata? To be interested in understanding what is there. Otherwise, just dream about not having any life after death or after now, this moment. That's why just learn to understand the absolute truth, which is so very profound and very subtle, very deep, so deep that no one can understand the truth of it, that it's quite opposite of what it appears, beyond expectation. No one can understand the truth of what Buddha meant by just one moment at a time, and what is there. And now, a moment, what is there? That's why just understand the depth or the subtlety of the teachings about the truth of this very moment, so deep that no one can think about it as having heard the truth of it before. For example, if there's no seeing right now, think, what's there? No seeing at all right now. So at moment of seeing is only a moment of a world appear as colors, visible object, shape and form to be taken for something permanent, because it doesn't show up and it's not there anymore after it has risen, gone instantly. So does anyone would like to get rid or have no life again and no more? Try to be out of all these moments, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. So is this the pariyati? So very keen and sharp enough, strong enough to understand the danger of this moment. That's why I listen to the teachings, not just wanting to get rid of what and what, or to go out of samsara, never have any moment of seeing and hearing again. Impossible. Because who is thinking at that very moment about this, and what is thinking right then? So I. That's why I understand what is meant by parami, perfections of kusala, led by panya to develop kusala, so that akusala doesn't have condition for arise as usual. Does anyone like to get rid or get out of samsara now? No seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no thinking at all. Even there can be some understanding of the truth, but what about the way?
And some people, like in a discussion we had, they say, yes, it's about now and it's about this moment, but there may not be enough chanda enough interest to really understand about what this moment is. So they may just like to have more kusala with calmness and less akusala with disturbance and restlessness, but without understanding about seeing and hearing and differences now, different nama dhammas and different rupa dhammas. It's all about my kusala to be developed and my akusala to diminish. So it can never lead to the path or the way out of samsara. So that's why dhammas are so subtle, and there has to be such careful considering about clinging and chanda and the different realities we've discussed in order to understand that they are all anatta. It's not my clinging or my interest. It's just clinging that arises for a moment, clinging to any object and then falling away instantly. And the point of appreciating that chitta arises and falls away so quickly is to begin to appreciate that no one can control, no one can make anything arise. Each reality arises by its conditions and then is gone. So that's why there is just clinging on and on and on to what is empty, what is gone completely, as Alberto mentioned.
Is this manasikara? See, it's there all the time, arising with each moment. But some has doubt about how to consider carefully. See, now no one do anything at all. It's just that reality arising with each moment, depending on the object, how much understanding is there. It's wise enough to understand it. Not anyone at all. That's why Chitta is here now and Chittasikas are there too.
I
That's
think,
why-
Anna, I was just going to say, Anna, it was you who asked a question the other day about Yonaso Manasikara. And I think Ajahn is alluding to that. In a situation like this, it just happens by conditions. And so it can only ever happen by conditions, naturally. And when there is chanda, then that chanda will condition the kind of reflection, not just when the discussion is going on like now, but at other times afterwards, in odd moments, no connection to any intention to study Dhamma.
No matter what is there in the book, is now to be known. We understand that there have to be the Chittasikas as Itipata, but it doesn't show up. That's why only understanding that it's there for sure, but it depends on the understanding of what is there now. No selection to understand Vittaka or Vichara or Ekakata or Manasikara, but they are there. That's why learning to understand different characteristics of each reality, conditioned understanding when it's there, when conditions are enough to condition moment of understanding it directly, gradually, little by little. That's why this is the conditions for the moment of understanding what is there now, when time comes only. But if one tries so hard, it's not the path. It's not the way, because the I is there. Try so hard.
Yes, nothing to be done as we discussed. And this means no I that can do anything, just different dharmas arising by their conditions and falling away instantly. So this is the letting go of the burden, understanding that there are just different moments of seeing, hearing, thinking, liking, disliking, kusala, akusala, kusala karma, akusala karma. But whatever it is, it's just a dharma that falls away. It doesn't belong to me. If one thinks one just wants to be aware of kusala citas, to have more, the clinging is there, so strong, but it's not realized at all.
So just at moment of understanding and more confidence, it's less akusala and attachment. Not at the moment.
It's only at moments of the understanding that there's less agusala, because the accumulated tendency is still there as strong as ever. So the idea that perhaps we are inclined to have from time to time that there can be, that there is more gusala and less agusala is wishful thinking, because less agusala only really comes with the eradication of gusala at moments of enlightenment. Except perhaps for wrong view. I don't know if that gets gradually worn away as understanding is developed.
Must do. And Eve, I think yesterday you were wishing to speak, but we ran out of time. Was there something you wished to bring up?
As far as I was reading about this note, there are various discourses about the Iddhipada and the four bases of Iddhipada. Concentration due to chanda, we've discussing virya, chitta, and investigation or discrimination, vimamsa. But the one that I had a question about today was volitional formations of striving was the translation, padana sankara. And is that related to chanda, to right? Perhaps Ajahn, if you could say some words on this, please. It's a bit murky. And to facilitate, for wise consideration, for wise reflection, I would appreciate a few words to clarify that. Thank you.
Nothing can be done. Only listening and consider. Only that. No I who is considering, no one at all. But it's that which is now consider. arising with each moment of citta, depending on what is heard about, this or that. Manasikara is there. That's why without wise considering at that very moment, can there be understanding? But when there is understanding right now, wise considering is there. Unknown, as vitaka unknown, vichara unknown, sanya unknown, until just only one appears as an object. They are there now, but what appears is only that which can be seen. And without citta, the reality which now arises and sees, no one here at all. So dark when there's no seeing. And this is wise considering itself. No one try to have it this way or that way at all. It's there, wise or unwise. This is the way to let go of the idea of self. Even considering is a reality. It performs its function together with other cetasikas, kusala or akusala, of what degree, what level of understanding. Move on very surely, very slowly. Up to the truth now.
At the moment of chanda, there is no self. It's just chanda.
Not only chanda.
Yes, because the other cetasikas and
That's the way to remember what is there. For example, when one tries very hard, at that moment it's not just seeing or hearing. The reality which tries is there. No one. And ignorance is there, not understanding it as just a reality which performs its function. Viriya, we can say that. And we don't have to look for it because it's there already, even right now. Looking around for it, but it's here.
Virya overcomes torpor, sloth.
We think about it. At that moment, it is Viriya which is there too.
Procrastination, laziness, overcome.
Not by anyone, but by patience, Kanti Bharami, Viriya Bharami, beginning to see that it's so very subtle, and that is the only way to have less attachment and ignorance of its truth, as it's so very deep and very subtle, arising and falling away now, all the time, by conditions. And without intellectual understanding, it's impossible to understand what is there as the truth of it. Not just the way we used to think about it. It's so permanent right now. That's why it takes quite a long time for Bodhisattva to become enlightened as Samma Sambuddha. And what about those who have less understanding than Bodhisattva? Not as great as the Bodhisattva who will be Buddha, will be only Savaka, the listeners, the followers. Hard enough.
And when Virya is there, it has a function and a characteristic. So there's no need to think of it as abandoning some other quality or other. It just arises, performs its function. And when there's procrastination, can there be virya also? Why not?
Only one thing at a time arises. Only one reality at a time.
Akusala virya.
There can be a kusala virya. There can be a kusala effort, yes, to do something.
When there's procrastination, there can be a kusala virya.
And back to chanda, as we mentioned before, the chanda.
I'm pointing to that when it appears, it can be known for what it is without thinking about the story of it.
We have to consider what citta arises with virya, or no virya arising with citta, that particular citta. For example, seeing, no need for virya. So seeing is much different from other moments. Just hearing is much different from other moments. Only 7 Chittasikas. Enough to condition moment of seeing and hearing. Karma is there. And only one moment of seeing cannot be 2 at all in the process. So what about ignorance about the truth, which is there, arising and falling away so rapidly?
And you mentioned about virya and chanda. We discussed before that chanda can be kusala or akusala. At moments of attachment, there is akusala chanda. At moments of aversion or anger, there is akusala chanda. Moments of wrong view, very interested in the object that is understood wrongly, akusala chanda. And at moments of kusala, like at moments of kindness, at moments of understanding, there is kusala chanda. Virya arises with all these different moments of citta, with chanda, as well as with other moments, such as when there is ignorance. So the virya can be kusala or akusala when there is wrong view, with akusala chanda taking such interest in the object that's understood wrongly. There is akusala virya at those moments. When it's kusala chanda, when there is understanding, there is kusala virya, those moments of understanding and kusala chanda. Nothing for anyone to do at all. It arises by conditions, sankhara dhammas. I think Azita is trying to ask something or bring up a topic.
Come in, Azita. We can't hear you. Can't hear you, Azita. Still can't hear you.
Try again, Azita. Try turning your volume up.
Lock out and lock in. Yeah. Right. Lock out. First lock out and then lock in again.
Could you put it in the chat, write it out, Asita?
You may need to log out and log in again, Peter.
And Dream and Tin, perhaps you have a topic you would like to bring up. I know Dream the other day said she had some more topics. Perhaps one of you has something you'd like to bring up.
Is about Vibhaka. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to know or understand the exact moment of Vibhaka or even thinking about it, because I read that it's none of my business to know exactly. But I was wondering, I went camping the other week and I felt very calm and completely pleasant and happy. But I brought my cousin with me, but he was having a hard time because there's bugs and there's mosquito everywhere. And I thought it's a good Vibhaka that we're both experiencing right now, but it doesn't seem like that to another person. So my question is about appreciating Vibhaka. Like maybe sometimes people can't appreciate good Vibhaka or bad Vibhaka, let alone differentiate between both. That's my question.
Please, Kunsara.
I was just going to say, how about now? Is it kusala or akusala vipaka? Is it good or bad vipaka now?
I think it's good.
I think answer just by thinking about it. For example, seeing the unpleasant object, then you have the idea it's akusala vipaka, right? But what about understanding each citta is so different by conditions, and what is meant by vipaka and kusala and akusala and kiriya? See, the four chati of citta to born arise to be kusala or akusala or vipaka or kiriya. Think about the first moment in life. What is there? The first moment in life. To be born, a worm, an elephant, deva, a human being. But in truth, what is there? Not the word deva, not the word worm, but there must be the reality which experiences an object for sure. Otherwise, it can be living being. It has to be just the tree or flowers and the weeds. So the difference is that there must be a reality which experiences an object, arises to experience only. No matter when it arises, it cannot like or dislike or anything at all. It just arises to experience what is there as the object of its experiencing at that very moment. So what is that? A reality which arises to experience an object. Can that reality arise without experience anything at all? When it is the nature, a reality which has such quality, just arise to experience an object. From birth, on and on and on, and then death and birth again, on and on and on. As long as there are conditions for its arising, no one can stop conditions for that to arise at all, because there are conditions for whatever arises. We learn to understand not just the past, in the beginning or the future in the beginning, but the moment when it's there. So there must be a moment of birth for sure. And no one there at all. No deva, no fish. So it's a reality which is conditioned to begin life after it has arisen, because it cannot just stop at that very moment only. It continue on by conditions. So it's not kusala or akusala because it's conditioned by a reality which we learned and heard about it so long, karma, deeds, wholesome or unwholesome. And deeds now can condition birth and life after death. Who knows? As long as it can condition moment of birth, depending on time and conditions. So that moment is not kusala, not akusala. It is vipaka only, which can condition different kinds of birth, to be blind or to be such and such from then on, because the deed cannot just condition only one moment of result, not enough for any kind of deeds. That's why this is the first function of the reality in life. And we call it, our Buddha said that it is patisanti citta, particularly arise after death. Nothing can arise after death, only this reality, which is the result of one karma only among all 100,000 karma, because it's time. No one can stop, because it's there as condition for such moment to be born, a horse or a cat. So after this life, what happened? Who knows? And from here, see, when that person hasn't attained enlightenment yet, there are conditions for birth, depending on what kind of karma. No doubt about vipaka. And if karma conditions only just one moment of birth, is it enough? So there must be more moments of vipaka conditioned by the karma, which condition the birth moment. But as there are other karmas as well, that's why the other karma can condition any moment when time comes for it to condition such moment of seeing. No choice. Hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. 5 doorways to experience pleasant or unpleasant object by different karmas. Who knows? Because the karmas and the result of karmas do not show up at all, that it's come from such and such karma, or it is the result of such and such karma. That's why seeing right now, conditioned by what karma? Who knows? That's why it's said in Tipitaka that karmas and the vipaka cannot be known. It's hidden, it's concealed. No one can know that this moment of hearing, different from seeing, what condition it. But to be sure that it's there, just in a moment. Consider the great wisdom of the Buddha. The citta before seeing, the citta after seeing cannot see. It performs its function different from seeing. That's why seeing is a function of citta, because that which experience arises to experience an object by its function. Can the birth moment see? Because it's not the function of seeing, it performs the function of patisanti, just arise after death of that previous life. So in life, we can understand at moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, or by conditioned by karma, different ones, or the same as karma, which condition birth consciousness, like the ant, see what the ant can see. So no doubt about karma and vipaka, and karma is kusala citta or akusala citta. By degree that it conditioned karma, strong or not, or weak karma. Right now, who knows? So another different one chati of citta is kiriya. It's not kusala, not akusala, not vipaka. It's conditioned, but it has to be conditioned. That's why so many conditions for just this moment.
So the moments of vipaka are the actual moments of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching at the moment. And if the object of the seeing or the hearing is pleasant object, then it's kusala vipaka. It's the result of kusala kamma. So now we are, for example, experiencing vipaka through the body sense. Body sense is experiencing temperature, heat and cold. And we're in the same room, but one person may be too cold and the other may be pleasantly comfortable. So we can't say that because of the situation, the vipaka is such and such. It very much depends on the individual's past deeds, the kamma that conditions the body sense at that particular moment. So, for example, if another example, if we are listening to Ajahn or anyone speaking, and the voice sound, the sound of the voice is the experience, the hearing experiences the sound of the voice, and that is the moment of vipaka. But whether one, to take an example that Alberto mentioned earlier, whether one likes or agrees with what is spoken or not is another matter altogether. If it's not the case that if one hears something you disagree with, then it's akusala vipaka, or if you hear something you like, it's kusala vipaka. So it comes down to the moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or touching. So relating that back to your example about your cousin and the camping, for you, it's enjoyable. For him, it's unpleasant. But that's nothing to do with whether the moments are kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka.
I have another question, but it actually might be too hard for me. I was reading your book, the red one, the very thick one. I tried to understand. Some chapter I could, but some chapter I couldn't. And there were a theme mentioned saying something about infinity and explaining about you can't really figure out how many of this universe are there and all the stuff. But I couldn't understand the rest of the paragraph. But I would like to know more about the infinity in terms of space and time in Dhamma world.
There can be the understanding of one word or one object at a time, so clear enough. For example, the reality which arises and experiences an object. Is it true? There is such reality because it now experiences the object. Without that, can the world appear? Anything appear? Space and stars and universe and dreams about those things? Impossible. That's why understanding the truth of a reality, which is so very important, the chief of experiencing an object, that it arises just to experience the object clearly, but no understanding. Just being able to experience the object so clear, that's all, its function, and then gone. So there are many different realities which arise and experience the objects, but in truth, they can be divided into two categories. One that which arises and experiences an object, and the other arises but cannot experience anything at all. No matter in what world or the universe or what is your idea about this and that, any subject, any thought about anything, it's that which experience an object. So no doubt or still doubt.
Like for example, as you said, if this is a table and I can see it as color, that's okay. But then like when I touch, it seems like it's not just hardness, there's space and there's like shape of the table and there's more to the touching.
So be truthful to the truth. This is so very important. How many moments are there when you talk about the story of touching and seeing?
Too many.
But can it be understood clearly if it's not just understanding one reality at a time or one moment at a time? So we live in the world of what? Understanding many things, thinking about many things, but not understanding a reality right now in a moment. So can life be without moments? Impossible. So just one moment in life is life. Without that one, no life. That's why there is moment of the reality which arises and experience an object from moment to moment non-stop by conditions. So what is the absolute truth of just a reality in a moment? Before there can be a long story about what is touched and what is seen, and the space in between and so on. So many, many different moments hidden. I is there, but where is I and what is I? See, beginning to understand the absolute truth. Nobody can change it at all, because in truth, without these realities arising and falling away, can there be anyone? So learn to understand what is there in a moment, only at a moment. Can it be known a moment?
It's too fast.
Can this moment be known? You didn't ask what moment. So what is this moment?
There's seeing.
Seeing one
Mm-hmm.
moment,
Mm-hmm.
it's gone. In split seconds. Can it be space or hardness or anything?
No, it's a seeing.
Impossible. Completely extinguished. Never to return. Only once in samsara. Only once in this life. Only once in a moment.
So one moment, as you said, is so fast. So one moment cannot be the object of awareness and understanding. But one reality, one kind of reality can be the object of awareness and understanding, such as seeing, but it's not one moment of seeing. If seeing is the object of awareness, it's many moments. It's actually the nimitta of many moments of seeing. Because why do we say it's the nimitta? Because the individual moments are not known. It appears as a continuous period of seeing. So that's why we talk about not understanding the present moment, but understanding a presently appearing reality, something that appears and can be known at the present moment.
Not according to one's own thought about many things, without understanding the truth, the absolute truth of what is there in a moment. So we learn about the absolute truth, which is hidden all the time in life, when there's no word to think about it, to consider it, to understanding it little by little, until right understanding can understand deeper and deeper, clearer and clearer, to the moment when it's now arising and falling away. And this is the Dhamma, Paramada Dhamma and Abhidhamma. No doubt. Or more doubt about other things.
So back to the camping, there's just like now, there are moments of seeing, moments of hearing, moments of thinking. Can it be known now, the seeing which arises now with indifferent feeling, can it be known whether it's kusala or akusala vipaka now? Or do we just assume because we're in a Dhamma discussion that it must be kusala vipaka? So actually it's just our own story, because the seeing at this moment, which is vipaka, arises and falls away instantly. It cannot be known whether it's kusala or akusala vipaka. And it's the same when camping. The seeing is just like now. The hearing is just like now. It cannot be known what kind of vipaka it is at different moments. If there's painful bodily feeling, okay, there must be akusala vipaka. But even so, it's just a moment, moments of akusala vipaka, moments of kusala vipaka, different from the thinking about, oh, this was such a calm and pleasant trip. This is just thinking with clinging and ideas about what calm is, quite different from understanding what vipaka is at this very moment. So it's not a matter of trying to catch or understand what kind of vipaka it is now, but appreciating that vipaka is just this moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, arising and gone instantly. Moments of kusala and akusala vipaka, no matter what story there is about the great camping or the terrible camping.
Can you know what moment is vipaka, besides seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching?
Thinking is not vipaka. Thinking is not vipaka, just the accumulation and the condition.
So what else can be moment of vipaka?
Apart from seeing, hearing, and smelling and tasting.
What is it?
Apart from that. Help.
Daily life. What about sleeping? Does it experience anything while one is sleeping?
No, with like Hawanka, Chitta.
So it's vipaka. In the day, vipaka is moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching all day, and then sleep. Everything gone, never come back, never return. See, but karma does not stop only there. It can produce moment of seeing again, hearing again, the new one. That's why no one at all, only different realities performing its function. Intl.Dhamma. It cannot be changed at all. It has to be just as it is. But in truth, there is not always seeing and hearing, because there must be moment when the object has fallen away. It cannot condition seeing to see it or other object or other moment of experiencing it while it's there. But when it's gone, there cannot be hearing instantly after seeing. It's bhavanka, moment of vipaka in between, not to die yet. There must be seeing and hearing on and on. And bhavanka is in between. But if it's not bhavanka, what is it?
Like, but based on
Death moment. So this is also vipaka of karma to end up. It ends the karma that it has done. When karma ends, no more vipaka, but the new one can be vipaka of other karma. The new moment, the next moment has to be. That's why after this moment, who knows? It can be death instantly. Since it does not see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think, it does not show up. Who knows the moment of birth, just before death, after death? No gap in between at all, from this present to unexpected life.
Then maybe a lot of bhavanka would be nice.
There must be not only one moment. And this is what we say, samsara, just move around, eyes, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, on and on and on. Nothing is there at all, just arise and falls away. Just learn to understand it, the truth, that's all. Otherwise, there can be attachment again, just want to be such and such. Life keeps on going by conditions. What would be the next moment is unknown. So how precious it is moment of understanding the truth. And the truth can be directly experienced because it's so true now. But ignorance cannot understand it. only right understanding begins to see, to understand. The world we used to think about, live in the world, it's not as it is, as we think. A moment or the panyat and nimitta of a reality, see. Beginning to see the great virtues of the Buddha. So it's not just to believe or to do anything, but to understand the truth. Nothing to be done. So it's not as heavy as before. Trying so hard. Impossible. Just as natural as it is by conditions.
And I think Ajahn comment words, nothing to believe, just understand, very important, because the Buddha didn't ask his followers to believe this or that, but said this is the way things are. It's for each person to consider for themselves and to verify whether or not it's in accordance with the way things are. But of course, what can be verified directly depends on the individual's level of understanding. So there's only a small increment of understanding that can be verified at any given time.
Yes, the Buddha did not specify that he should be worshipped in coming generations, or there should be a Buddha cult or anything, nor are the teachings just to be memorized at the intellectual level and parroted, and therefore, the word and the meaning and so forth. It's the understanding and chitta, the chief of experience, and Panya just arises. There is no self, no way to condition to control it. It can be conditioned through listening to the Dhamma, association with wise friends, reflecting on it, and so on. But it just all happens naturally, patiently, so painstakingly, patiently, according to the accumulations. The self, this aggregate, this mind or whatever, cannot understand beyond the accumulations. It has to be calibrated and titrated. I have no other way of saying it. So there is no methodology or meditation center, anything to do or to go to. Dhammas just arise. And for Chitta to cognize through one of the doors, sense doors. And I think I wanted to say yesterday is, after listening to the discussion here and considering, I became somewhat dissatisfied and more uncomfortable with the meditation. And I noticed that I didn't really quite fit in with the other people around me, and they sort of noticed something was different about me. And it came about after a certain period of time. I went back to investigate, not just I blindly accept the teaching and that's it. I must experience and understand. No one can understand for me. So the Panya. And many people here in these rooms have had various experiences with meditation. I had a monastic experience with Zen. I entered a monastery in my 20s. I don't really say much about that, but there were some yogis who came from maybe Hong Kong or Taiwan. It was a number of years ago. And I said to one of the ladies, a more senior one, I just looked her in the eye and said, and it's not satisfying, yet you keep doing it. Why? But there were friends, and another person told me that they'll say, oh, you're spiritual and development. So there's mana and attachment into being around spiritually minded people. But in the end is the truth, the Dhamma, and to go take a path and say, this is the way, and then climb up down from there and then say, well, I'm going to go this way too, and they'll both get me there even faster, is a form of undermining that I cognized, and it just naturally came about that I abandoned meditation. I don't know why I said that, but I just
Meditation is something to do. See, but nothing can be done.
While I sat there, the mind was all over the place. And no one said to me what you said yesterday so brilliantly, distilled to its simplicity, is that chitta arises to cognize the object, rupa, which arises by conditions. Nobody said that there. They said other things, but not so beautifully distilled down to its clarity and simplicity. And it's so subtle and so deep and so difficult. Why add to it?
Anyway, congratulations on your understanding. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that when the teaching is considered, then the wrong view or the wrong practice naturally falls away, not because you've decided not to do it or something like that, but because it's conditioned that way. Do you have any follow-up on your question? About you, any follow-up to your two questions? Anything more to ask or clarify?
Next day.
Hello. Hello. So my question is about an action that's about being nice to other people. There are times that there is like from my experience, like what happens a lot is that there is like fear that people that I talk to, or like actually like even now, there's like fear of people not liking me, of like disliking me. And at other times there are the need that there are needs that that I have to impress the people that I talk to or like communicate with. And other times it's like it's all different, I feel, but it's not really clear for me yet, which because it's like the same outcome, like the same outcome is that I'm nice to other people, but like it's conditioned by different cetasika, or or other like different conditioning. So like my question is like how can I differentiate between these different conditioning, if it's kusala or akusala? Because if there is thinking that if it's akusala, then like I might as well not be nice to other people, you know, if it's all akusala. But if there is, I guess I can't do anything, but maybe I can, there can be understanding how different Cetasika could condition the same outcome of action of being nice to other people.
As you say, there can be metta, or there can be rather friendliness, and one can be helpful and nice to other people for different reasons. And no doubt what you've experienced is the same for everyone, that sometimes it's for wholesome reasons and sometimes it's for selfish reasons. The fact that it's sometimes for selfish reasons, I think, is no excuse no reason not to act in a kindly and polite and helpful way to other people, because what is the point of acting in an unfriendly way just because one can't be pure in one's friendliness? It doesn't make sense, does it? So the answer to your question, actually, which was how does one know the difference between the wholesome and the unwholesome motivation, is like asking what is the difference between kusala and akusala. And we know the answer by the book study, but not in reality, because that level of understanding hasn't yet been developed. The answer by book study is that the kusala moments are calm. There's no agitation. And the akusala moments come with a degree of agitation. We can't know from the situation, as you've rightly described, whether it's kusala or akusala, because one can appear to be acting in a kusala way, but for the wrong reason. Yeah. But it's one of those things that understanding will come to appreciate or to know in due course, as we were talking earlier in another context. We would like to know at this stage the difference between kusala and akusala, but the direct understanding of that, we still rely on a generalization, the same kind of feeling that a person who hasn't heard the Dhamma has. A person who hasn't heard the Dhamma can know when they're angry, can know when they're doing it with a good intention or not. But it is a kind of understanding that has yet to be developed. Sarah.
Do you think Azita, does Azita have her questions sorted out? The sound, log in, log out? No, she's shaking her head.
It may be, I think this may be too noisy in my background, but Tin, the main thing is that there are moments of kindness, moments of fear, moments of clinging to what impression is made, and on and on and on. But the point is, they're just different dhammas. none of them belong to me. It's not my fear or my clinging or my metta. They're just different dharmas arising and passing away. And if there is trying to know, trying to find out, trying to pinpoint, it's just more clinging to self again, and it's all gone. So like now, moments of kindness, moments of clinging, moments of fear, but just passing dharmas of no importance. Otherwise, there's clinging again and again to the story about me and my fear and my impression. But actually, they're just different dharmas arising and passing away.
Is it helpful? Because we cannot, well, we can, like you said, John, like we can only understand from the book understanding, but not at that moment. Is it in any way helpful to think about what just happened, like maybe a few moments ago, and is there something to understand there, or is it it's not worth it because it's only our thinking about the past?
If you're asking, is this a way to learn more about kusala and akusala, the answer is no. Sometimes there is thinking about something that happened in the past, and one realizes that it was of a certain nature, but that happens by conditions. In terms of you're asking, is it helpful to do this in order to learn more about what is kusala and akusala? The answer is no, because that is that is doing something, isn't it? Yeah.
And that's the difference between the Buddha's teachings and everything else. I mean, other traditions, they'll talk about the value of introspection, but from the Buddha's standpoint, that's just thinking, and it's not understanding.
Your question is to understand the truth or what?
Well, I think it is, but at that moment, I'm not sure.
See, to be truthful to the truth is so very subtle. It cannot be understood so very easily as we think. What can I do? Can this bring such and such result and so on? That is expectation for something out of hearing the teachings. It's not truthful to the truth, to understand the truth in life, and not just this life, eons and eons before and now and ahead. So the truth is now here, but it's not easy to understand. That's why, just for the sake of understanding, because we can have good friends, we can have fortunes, we can have honor, everything, and then gone. No understanding of the truth. But at moment of understanding the truth, it's not unwholesome at all. It's the best thing, most precious reality among realities which arise and falls away. Nothing can compare to the moment of understanding the truth. That's why when the condition is so great, wholesome, what is the result? Do we have to expect?
No.
So no matter what would you like, when there is the understanding of the truth, it can bring result more than other kusala. But if there is clinging to the result, no way to be out of samsara or ignorance. That's why one parami, the most important is being truthful to the truth, not for anything, because it's just in a moment. To be liked by the others, to be praised just in a moment. And where is it? Attachment is there, and ignorance is there, more clinging to it. It's so dangerous. What do you think you'd like to have? Really? Is it true? Is it true? To be truthful to the truth. Otherwise, the other moment must be conditioned by more attachment and ignorance as usual, as before, added more and more.
And I think what Ajahn is pointing to is that the reason we ask that kind of question is really because we want to have more kusala, either to be a better person or because of our concern about the rebirth in the next life, or whatever the reason is, it doesn't much matter. And the study of the Dhamma is about the understanding of the truth at the present moment.
So the more understanding, the more you understand what is the meaning of Buddha, the enlightenment, and the absolute truth. Yeah, any other kind of what you think you'd like to have. Can there be anything to be done? Can there be anything to do or be done?
More ignorance and wrong view and more and when there is thinking about something to get, it's not the best way to
There is no you, no one, no thing, not anything at all. And that is the only way to have less idea about I can do, or anyone can do, or anything can be done. All by conditions. Each moment, each reality which arises has to be by conditions. So many conditions, not just one condition. Even seeing without the eye as condition, without that which impinges on it, without kamma, they cannot be seen. Not one condition. And each cetasika arising with that moment are conditions too. Well, whatever arises together.
it's already a reason, even if we don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Understanding the world with only one moment. Not like now. so many moments. And this is the beginning to know who's the Buddha. Enlighten the truth, which is hidden from years and years, life to life, on and on and on. Is there anything you'd like to get from hearing the truth?
There is thinking that I would like to get more panya.
See, attachment is there as long as it's I.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's so natural. It has to be like that from the very beginning.
So it's all wrong. Every time I come here or listen to you guys' YouTube channel, I listen to it almost every day. And then right after I get out of this room or right after I turn off the YouTube, then I become, oh, I'm so enlightened. I'm going to every walk today, I'm going to feel, it's like my inclination to like have that behavior. So it's all wrong.
It has happened. It's there already to be known. Only when there is the right understanding enough to condition moment of understanding what is there, one reality at a time. Or one nimitta of a reality. Tomorrow I'll come in the afternoon and